Very good evening, I'm Grant Walker. Nepal is marking the anniversary of last year's devastating earthquake as aid agencies warn of the health risks for the millions still living in substandard temporary shelters. The 7.8 magnitude quake toppled 1 million houses, destroyed roads and hundreds of mountain villages. About 9,000 people were killed and 22,000 injured. 1 year on, reconstruction has been slow and most of the $4 billion pledged by donors remains unspent because of political squabbling. In Australia's Northern Territory, a community of Nepalese migrants is holding a candlelight vigil tonight. Northern Territory Nepalese Association spokesman Basudev says survivors are still suffering.
Almost 9,000 people lost their lives, and people are still in miserable condition in Nepal who are, earthquake victims and all survivors.
Basudev in Palmerston, Australia. Thousands of people turned out around the country for Anzac commemorations, including more than 120 people in the small rural Marlborough town of Rye Valley. An organiser, Faye Leo, says the remembrance service in the French Pass Gateway town, halfway between Nelson and Blenheim, is growing each year. Of the 75 men who left the small community in the Great War, 28 were killed or died of injuries or illness. Ms. Leo says it's likely that per head of population, no other community in New Zealand sent or lost as many people.
There were a lot of young men here who worked in the mills. There were a lot of young men here who worked on farms, and they just took it up and they went. I don't think they were necessarily looking for adventure like a lot of people here. I think they just actually felt really strongly about the cause.
Faye Leo says many people who know the area and who visit the memorial are astounded at the 172 people who served in both world wars and the number who never returned. Christchurch's Bridge of Remembrance was rededicated today after nearly $7 million in earthquake repairs. The arch and adjoining bridge across the Avon River, which leads into Cashel Street, were damaged in the February 2011 shake. Canterbury RSA President Peter Dawson says it's an iconic symbol to Canterbury as troops march through the arch to the railway station on the way to fight in the Second World War. He says the repairs have taken 5 years, but it has been done right, and Christchurch has somewhere which will serve it for the next 100 years. Tourism leaders say the government could do more to improve the experience of visitors. The Tourism Minister, John Keith, says there will be money in next month's budget to help councils plagued by freedom campers. He says tourists not staying in holiday parks, motels or hotels is a real problem, and there will be more money to help councils build infrastructure. The Tourism Industry Association's Chief Executive, Chris Roberts, says a more holistic approach needs to be taken. He says basic things like water availability, sewerage and roading can affect a tourist's experience. The most senior judge in India has made an impassioned plea for the country to recruit more judges. In a speech before the Prime Minister, the Chief Justice, T.S. Thakur, asked how India's 16,000 judges could cope with the 300 million cases pending. The BBC's Charles Havland has more.
His voice breaking, Justice Thakur told a conference that judges visiting from abroad could not understand how Indian judges could work under such stressful conditions. He said that while the U.S. Supreme Court judged 81 cases per year, an Indian judge dealt with an average of 2,600 cases per annum. Nearly 30 years ago, a commission recommended increasing by 5 times the proportion of judges to people, but this hasn't happened. The Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, responded by saying he would definitely try to find a way out of the impasse.
Charles Havland reporting from Delhi. The New Zealand driver Hayden Paddon says he had to push like hell to win his maiden World Rally Championship title this morning in Argentina. Leading by just 2 seconds going into the rally's final stage, Paddon charged to take the title by 14 seconds from the French world champion Sébastien Ogier. Paddon's victory was only the second time a rally driver from the Southern Hemisphere has won a WRC title. He moves into second place in the WRC Drivers' Championship with 10 rounds in the competition remaining. The two-time defending champion Lydia Ko was unable to retain her swinging skirts LPGA title today in San Francisco, and she finished tied for 6th. The world's number one golfer battled to a final round 3 over par and strong wins at Lake Merced to finish at 1 under for the tournament, 8 strokes behind the runaway winner from Japan, Haru Nomura. Despite the blustery conditions, Ko says she enjoyed the final round played on her 19th birthday.
It was a pretty cool day. Obviously, I would have loved to shout, something crazy under par, but, it was tough. And, I felt I played really strong, made quite a few good up and downs in the back 9, and I'm happy with the way I finished this week. And, in a top 10 around here, I'll take it.
The New Zealand golfer, Lydia Ko. That's the news.
Colleagues Jen Harvey files dispatches from the front line in a political new album. I'm Nick Bollinger, and I'll be discussing PJ Harvey's The Hope 6 Demolition Project in The Sampler. I'll be reviewing an 80s Bowie-influenced set from Texas band Shearwater, and an album that combines soul horns and grunge anthems with classic country. That's in The Sampler, Tuesday at 7:30. Out of Nights on RNZ National.
Well, it's 5.5 minutes past 8. Now the short forecast from Met Service until midnight tomorrow. Northland to Waikato, including Coromandel Peninsula, fine apart from isolated showers in the west. For the remainder of the North Island, also Nelson, Marlborough, Canterbury, North Otago and Central Otago. Fine weather, a few cloudy areas over central North Island tomorrow morning. Remainder of Otago and Southland, showers in Southland and Clutha, spreading to Dunedin tomorrow morning. Westerly gales near the coast, easing tomorrow morning. Buller, Westland and Fiordland, mostly cloudy with showers, clearing from southern Westland tomorrow evening and becoming isolated in Fiordland and the Chatham Islands, occasional showers. Our next news and weather will be at 9 o'clock. You're listening to RNZ National, Te Reo Irirangi o Aotearoa, funded through New Zealand On Air. A century ago today in Dublin, a group of Republican rebels staged a bloody rebellion. They struck a blow for Irish independence in the middle of the Great War, bringing death and destruction to Britain's second city for 6 days, while their countrymen were dying in the trenches for the Empire. The brutal suppression of the Easter Rising by the British turned the rebels into martyrs, and the Rising became the symbolic birth of a free Ireland. 5 New Zealand soldiers who were in Dublin when the Rising began were caught up in the momentous event, but their story has only recently come to light.
Monday, April 24th, 1916, a group of unlikely rebels with playwrights and poets among the leadership seized key buildings across the city of Dublin and declared Ireland an independent republic. And then came one of those great what-if moments. A New Zealand soldier in the crowd found himself with a clear shot of unarmed rebel leader James Connolly. Yet the story of the New Zealander who could have changed the course of Irish history only emerged because of a school jumble sale in Lawrenceville. A silver cup awarded to a Corporal Don for helping to defend Trinity College Dublin eventually made its way to Hamilton-based historian Hugh Keane, and it became the key to unlocking a long-buried story.
As soon as I saw the cup, I realised it was actually a significant piece of history. It was engraved Defence of TCD, Sinn Féin Rebellion, Easter 1916, and on the back of the cup was engraved Corporal Don, New Zealand Field Artillery. So that really got me interested to think that New Zealand soldiers had been involved in the Easter Rising in 1916.
Hugh Keene's research led him to discover that Corporal Don was Gallipoli veteran Alexander Don from Dunedin. Convalescing in Ireland, Corporal Don was walking past Dublin Castle, the headquarters of the British administration, on Easter Monday 1916, when 2 British soldiers in front of him were shot dead.
He looked up and saw what he thought were soldiers in dark green uniforms shooting wildly at any British soldier who was walking along the street. He took cover. He thought that they were a bit confused by his hat. He had a slouch hat on, and of course these chaps were probably the Irish Citizen Army volunteers who wore a similar uniform with a slouch hat, and so he sort of managed to escape.
Pushed into a nearby house by a group of women, Corporal Don changed into civilian clothes so that he wouldn't be a target. He went back into the streets and joined the crowd outside the General Post Office, now Rebel headquarters.
As he made his way through the crowds, he saw James Connolly standing on the steps of the GPO, and in his letter home, he sort of said that he could have taken a shot at him, but the GPO was bristling with rifles, so he sort of disappeared into the crowd.
There was confusion and anger on the streets of Dublin when the Rising began. There were even rumours that the Germans were about to arrive, as the rebels had sought the help of Britain's wartime enemy, referring to Germany as gallant allies in the proclamation of the Irish Republic. Newspaper columnist Kevin Myers says the rebels had no moral authority.